handed you 2 drives. What is on them? GX8. Ventura messages and photos from my devices. What she said. So messages and photos from my devices. All right. Let's see if we can pull up the. Yesterday we had multiple reports from the inside. See if we can get that up as well. Here we go. Let's see. Got one here. Perfect. I like this one. We'll keep an eye on some of these. She's taking a stand to resume her testimony. Today she's wearing a gray turtleneck dress and a dark coat. She did not look at Combs as she entered the room. So we're here, day 3. She's being asked about the thumb drive. Prosecutor Emily Johnson approached the witness to ask them to identify if it's familiar with the contents. She said she is. Okay. So we're getting started. Let's see this over here. See if this pulls up.
On back page as well, Ventura says yes. AUSA says, who directed you to communicate with the escorts? Now this is where they're trying to make that tie to say, no, Diddy made me do it. Defense says, objection. We don't know if the judge sustained or overruled, but the AUSA says, who, if anyone, in the defense says, same objection, assumes a fact that's not in evidence. AUSA says, they're trying to put it in a different way. Did you ever reach out to escorts independently? She says no. AUSA says, did you ever not use an escort who arrived? Ventura says, one couldn't perform, so Sean sent him on. AUSA says, what was a safe escort? Ventura says, not a cop.
Greg.
And someone who wouldn't run and tell everyone about their experience with us. AUSA says, wait, why not a cop? Cassie says, I learned this whole situation was not legal. Defense says, objection. By the way, keep in mind, and this is nuanced. Nuanced stuff to consider. Prostitution is illegal in the majority parts of the country. It's also illegal nationally. So federally, it's illegal, okay? Even though in places like, for example, in Nevada, there's places where prostitution is legal, even though it's like one of those things where marijuana, right? Marijuana is illegal federally, but it's legal in New Jersey. Will the feds come to New Jersey to lock up a New Jersey resident for using marijuana? No, they won't. Because they usually have some discernment and say, well, state law allows you to use marijuana. But technically, federally, marijuana is illegal. Okay? So, what happens with this idea of escorting? Escorting is like a skirt around way to escape prostitution. An escort, you usually pay for their time. Oh. Their time doesn't mean sexual services.
Right.
A prostitute, you pay for their services.
So I just want to spend some time with you. I want to pay for you to hang out with me. I want to pay to cuddle with you. I want to pay for, they have this cuddling service too. They have cuddle services. You can just pay somebody. They come, you're not supposed to touch, or I don't know if they allow you to touch, but you're not supposed to be intimate. And you pay somebody and they just cuddle with you in the bed and they sleep with you. So I'm just paying for your company. They have something too called girlfriend experience, GFE. I'm paying you to be my girlfriend. I don't know why these dudes do that. That's a relationship anyway. These relationships, you're paying for the girl. That shit, that's what it is. But these dudes, maybe, but you know what the benefit of that, I guess, is that like once you're done paying, you don't have to deal with it. You just, I pay you for an hour. I want the experience of complaining and nagging for an hour, and then I go on about my day. You know, type of shit.
Sexual. That's explicitly.
I don't want the full-on experience. I just want you for an hour or two, for a reminder, and then I'll send you on your way.
Prohibited, banned, illegal in the majority of places, including federally. An escort. You could hire an escort and talk to her for 2 days. It doesn't. Now, granted, colloquially, it implies that the escort is the fuck, but it's a workaround. So the AUSA is trying to bring up via Cassie, hey, I know you're hiring escorts, but did Diddy, was he aware that some of the things that y'all were doing was a gray area that could be illegal? And that's what they're getting to. So Cassie says, I learned this whole situation was not legal. Defense says objection. They're going to object because the idea of escorts isn't necessarily illegal. The judge says the jury will disregard that last answer because that's non-factual. Hiring an escort isn't essentially illegal, but hiring someone for pay for sex services is illegal. So the AUSA continues by saying, how did the cash get there? The judge jumps, the judge.
Security brought it, yeah.
Security, or he brought him himself? No, this got to be Cassie. I think this has got to be Cassie.
Yeah, sometimes, because this guy's tweeting out fast, I think he makes little mistakes, grammatical mistakes or name mistakes and stuff like that. Let's check real quick. Let's check in with the latest updates. Again, on the right-hand side is the live tweets popping up, propagating. If you want to just read them yourself, but I am going to read everything, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you're just curious, so let me do a little refresh. Let's see what's going on here. So they were questioning her about they handed her devices, if she recognized them, 2 drives, and she said, yes, messages and photos from my devices. So the prosecution says, yesterday you testified about Sean going armed to look for Suge Knight. Ventura says Sean took guns with him. AUSA, the prosecution says, and he told you to ask the escorts if they were cops. Ventura, I would begin by saying I was not a cop. Prosecution says, Sean told you to do that. She says, yes. Prosecution says, what happened when you fought back? Cassie says, I did that more earlier in the relationship. It would make him more violent, want to push me harder. Defense says, objection to the speculation. Judge says, overruled. Prosecution, how would Sean react if he fought back? She says, anger. Prosecution says, I'm going to show you the LA Intercontinental hallway again. So they play the video from 143 to 146. Prosecution says, who enters? Sean. Prosecution, what's in his hand? Cassie says he doesn't appear to have anything. Prosecution plays to 159. Now, anything in his hand? She says, my phone. How did he get it? Ventura says, well, he took all my stuff. Prosecution says, where does he end up? Where does he end up? Cassie says, sitting in a chair in front of the window. Prosecution says, what are you doing? She says, I'm walking away from him. Okay. Somebody here said, as a juror, I would be like, yeah, I get it. I've seen it for the 6th time now. So that video is messed up. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I don't know exactly how much of the video they're showing or not, but I watched the video again last night. I was just on my phone. It came up on Twitter, and I was like, damn, that's probably visually, I mean, we haven't seen the other stuff, but one of those damning things, him kind of just moving her around like a rag doll. Crazy. Men will pay to be berated and whipped. Yeah, yeah, it's true. Men pay for that. There's people that pay to be stepped on. I want you to just come over here and walk on me. Kia saying, not Ikimo saying the defense needs to come hard in a Diddy trial. Yeah, this guy's that pay to just be stepped on. I want you to just step on me. I give you $200. There's a lot of people that probably do it. You want me to just come in there and just step on you? Step on me. I want you to step on me and slap me. You know, I want you to pee on me. I want you to poop on me. You know, record me. Threaten to put it out. Some of the stuff that's going on. Some people will get turned off by that. Turned on by that. The threat of being exposed, humiliated. I want you to record this. There's people that are like being financially taken advantage of. I mean, I said they get berated for free. Crazy. And lick their boots and the bottom of the shoes, dirty shoes, everything. Yeah. All kinds of stuff, man.
Says security either brought the cash or himself. Okay, yeah, yeah. So they correct themselves here. Ventura says that, right? It says, AUSA says, the escort Dave. Do you know his real name? Ventura says Clayton Howard. The AUSA says, who is this? Then they show the photo to the witness, which is, they showed it to Cassie. She says, Daniel. AUSA says, what service did you use? She said, we use a dancer service. So it appears that now that we're getting more information, Cassie was soliciting these let's call them sex workers to have sex with her in these freak offs via Craigslist, Backpage, and dancer services, right? So they would hire male strippers at times. And then I guess when the male strippers got there, they would be like, hey, bro, are you down to fuck her? Clearly, I would imagine if there's a first time they're in masquerade, they would hope they can't understand. And I'm going to be honest with you, Cassie's a fucking attractive girl. Like, I'm going to be honest, I can see, Cassie's motherfucking really, really attractive, if you ask me. Yeah, Cassie's bad. Let's go back. And this is Cassie now in her 30s, right? Cassie in her 30s, like, Cassie's still bad. You show up and you a dancer, you're thinking it's going to be some old, ugly, fat-ass bitch. Instead, you see is Cassie looking fine as hell, oiled up and lubricated with baby oil, and you're like, oh, my God.
That's true. I can't imagine what people like that in that line of work, what they encounter all the time, on a regular basis. Like, most of the time, you're not going to get some type of R&B singer, model, somebody in shape. You're probably going to get somebody from the trenches of society. Not all the time, because a lot of people are into that, do that stuff. Not necessarily. You don't have to be the trenches of society. There's a lot of people that go on there and they just don't want to have to deal with the complexities of a relationship, and it's easier sometimes to just, one and be done type of thing. But for the most part, you're probably getting all kinds of greasy ass people. Stinky, smelly, drugs, high. You got to worry about being robbed. And in this case, you're getting called over to some mansion, some fancy hotel. And there's Cassie, a woman soliciting services,
Yo, fuck the dancing. I'll fuck her I would have fucked her for free. Right? AUSA says, do you recognize Jules? Ventura says, yes. In what cities did you have the freak off with Jules? So I'm guessing this is another person. So we've heard about like a few sex workers, right? Gigolos, if you want to call it that. So here we go. We hear about one named, here we go. One couldn't perform, then another one, Dave. Then their real name was Clayton Howard. Then we heard about another one named Jules.
Yeah,
Ventura says, yes, I recognize him. In what cities did you have a freak off with Jules? NY, LA, and Vegas. AUSA says, do you know his last name? She says, no. AUSA says, do you know this person? So they're just showing all the many niggas who have put dicking up in Cassie's stomach.
Right.
Yo, if I was her boyfriend or Alex Fine at this point, I'm like, yo, I got to throw up. Like, God damn.
Well, that's what I was saying yesterday. I mean, not only just that Sean is there and his family is listening and his daughters and kids and all this stuff, but Cassie, her husband's there. I hope her kids are not there. Her husband's there listening in the back, listening to all these details. You know?
Y'all are they're bringing up a dick lineup. Hey, remember fucking him? Yup. Remember fucking him? Yup. Remember him peeing on you? Yup. Remember? They're giving a dick lineup to Cassie right now. She said, I don't know his name. I only knew him as the Punisher.
Jesus Christ.
Holy. Crazy. Did you use drugs at every freak off? She says yes. I needed to disassociate and become emotionless. Who else used drugs at the freak offs? Ventura says Sean did. Sometimes the escort. AUSA says, what other drugs did you use? Ventura says Special K. What the fuck is Special K?
And that's the thing too. Yesterday, the Special K thing came up. And I didn't realize it because Nat was asking me. She said she didn't know what that was. Special K is ketamine. Ketamine is used as like a tranquilizer. I mean, people use it to get high, but like in a hospital, but not necessarily even just a tranquilizer, but like as a sedative almost. People use it to get high. People use it in clubs too. You know, you can, depending on the amount that you use, people feel really good. Let me see, ketamine effects. People use it for depression. I think Elon Musk said he uses ketamine. Like, was it ketamine? Small doses of ketamine? Microdosing ketamine? It's a controlled substance, and its recreational use is illegal. All right, thank you. Fuck this AI telling us, making sure we know it's illegal. The recreational use of ketamine can have significant health risks: overdose, respiratory, depression, blah blah blah. All right, tell us what are people feeling when they take this stuff? Yeah, people take it at a rave. People take it at parties. It can be dangerous, though. It can be dangerous.
By the way, as you're watching this Diddy trial, I think it emphasizes how important having a great lawyer is. And that is where our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, comes in. So this is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys. You know why they have so many? Because they win a lot. In the past few months, Morgan & Morgan secured a $6 million verdict for a car crash victim in Florida.
I didn't realize I had it open in two windows. Yeah, ketamine. People use it, they love it or whatever, but yeah, it can be dangerous. And then they have something called K-hole. They say you can feel, let's see here. It's a dissociative drug. It can cause people to feel separated, detached from their body or physical environment. Dissociatives are similar to psychedelics. It can cause hallucinations and other changes in thoughts, emotions, and consciousness.
I don't know, Mel. She keeps using the word we a lot in her testimony, and especially when referring to hiring.
Claudia, thank you for the 23 months. You're almost at 2 years. Thank you so much for the support, the membership. I appreciate that. And people, there was this friend I used to have that she said she used to trip on it. She used to go into a K-hole where she would like be in another place, another world, somewhere else, almost like DMT. But I think mostly people just take small amounts. But if you take too much, you can end up going into a K-hole. The effects that people say they experience: feeling happy, relaxed, feeling detached from your body, lowered sensitivity to pain, visual and auditory hallucinations, confusion and clumsiness, increased heart rate and blood pressure, drowsiness, slurred speech and blurred vision, and anxiety and panic, vomiting, going into a K-hole. K-hole. Intense detachment from reality is what it is. Usually only happens at high doses. So some people like to go into K-holes. But it's pretty, you got to be careful with that stuff. So that's one of the things they're talking about there. K-hole. They were taking everything.
GHB. Ooh.
GHB. That's another one.
I think GHB is a date rape drug. Much of it?
Yeah, that's right, girl.
Much of it, Jack?
Yeah.
Wow, GHB drug. Let's. What the fuck is GHB?
That's kind of the date R drug.
Hydroxybutyrate. In terms of GHB, gamma hydroxybutyrate. In terms of neurotoxicity and effects in the body, it's actually one of the safest because it breaks down into
Is GHB the date rape drug? I know it's butanol, but I keep hearing GHB. It's gamma hydroxybutyl. Shit, I'm a fucking biomathematics. I have a degree in it, so I've taken all the science classes. But damn, I'm trying to put that together. What the fuck? What type of chemical is that?
Carbon dioxide and water. It's something that actually naturally occurs in our bodies already. But when you buy it as a drug, it can be bought as crystals and powder and then diluted, but most often you're going to get a
I see my boy Arch Nemesis like, nah, that's that date rape shit, bro.
Viscous fluid, and then you would typically shoot a bit or mix it in with some juice. In smaller doses, it can act like alcohol in a way. It's kind of just a relaxing, happy buzz. Depending on context and setting, again, and environment, it can be a hyper.
They got the soothing music going on. Look like they trying to give y'all an alley-oop to go get it.
A sexual drug for some people. Other people will have kind of spasms and they'll sit there and jerk, and that's just a sign they're doing too much. Some people think, well, it's a depressant drug, so if they've done too much, we should give them some meth or some coke.
Damn. All right, let's catch up. Let's see what's going on in these tweets right now. Live in the courtroom. Do a little refresh here. So they were talking about the video of the LA Intercontinental hallway where they play certain parts of the video. And she says that Sean enters and what's in his hand, her cell phone. How did he get it? He took all her stuff. Where does he end up? She says, sitting in a chair in front of the window. Prosecution says, what are we doing? She says, I'm walking away. Prosecution says, now who's in the video? Cassie says, me and security. Prosecution says, play from 531. Where did you go from the hotel? Ventura says, to my house. I took an Uber. Prosecution says, let's turn to text messages. Can you read page 4? Cassie says, please call. I'm surrounded. Prosecution says, who sent that? Cassie says, from Sean. He was running around in a towel. I told him to put the robe on. Prosecution says, who sent these green messages? Cassie says, I did. I wrote to Sean, Jules left. As long as you're quiet, you can stay. Peace. Prosecution says, who's Jules? She says, an escort. Prosecution says, is this Jules? Photo shown, big smile. So they show her the picture. Cassie says, yes. Prosecution says, B606 and 607 side by side. I guess there's a picture of Cassie in big sunglasses. Cassie says, yes, that's me. A selfie of what? A selfie of me with a fat lip. Prosecution says, when did you take it? Cassie says, in the Uber with one of my phones. Prosecution says, what did you write here? Cassie says, I said, please stay away from me. Prosecution says, and what does he say? Cassie says, he says, I'm getting arrested. Prosecution says, was he? Cassie says, I don't think so. Prosecution says, what did you write back? Cassie said, plugging my phone in and going to bed. Prosecution says, what was your home, or who was at your home when you got there? Cassie says, Carrie Morgan. She was upset when she saw me. She called the police. Prosecution, did you speak with them? Cassie says, yes, but I didn't say who I was talking about, and they left. Prosecution says, why? Cassie says, I wasn't ready. So this person here on Twitter says, so there should be a police report somewhere of the police arriving at her house in case at Cross, they may ask her why she never called. Yeah, they could pull it up. Maybe they should be able to pull it up. The call to the house. Close this out. Let's see what we got here for these updates. So Cassie Ventura testifies about bombshell 2016 hotel footage. Prosecutors have asked her to address the footage from 2016. The footage became public last year when CNN broadcast it for the first time. They asked her to identify herself and also Combs, who was in a towel. The hotel footage has no audio, and for stretches of time, Sean Combs is seen talking to Cassie. Ventura said he was calling me out my name, in other words, insulting her and calling her slurs, and told her that she wasn't going to leave him there. The prosecutor was asking for Cassie to flesh out certain points of her from her testimony Tuesday. Asked whether she fought back when Sean Combs would physically attack her. Ventura said she did earlier in the relationship. She said she learned that doing so would make it worse for herself, that it would escalate to violence. Combs sometimes acted surprised and shocked that she fought back, Ventura said. Other times, this would lead to more anger and frustration. So the second day of Cassie's testimony include explicit videos of the alleged freak-offs she arranged so often for Sean Combs. She said it became a job. Okay. She said that she told the jury yesterday that the idea of these humiliating, disgusting sessions, which said involved male prostitutes, were recorded, left her feeling insane. I never wanted anyone to ever see me like that. She testified, it was just not okay for me. So the text messages that were shown today, these are text messages Combs sent Ventura after the 2016 hotel altercation. After security guard Israel Flores responded to the hotel room from the following 2016 altercation, Cassie testified that she was able to get her things and leave the hotel. She took an Uber to her apartment. From the witness stand, Cassie read a series of text messages between Combs and herself from after the altercation. Those texts read, "Call me. Yo, please call me. I got 6 kids. Please call me. Yo, please call me. I'm surrounded. Call me. For my kids, help." Cassie testified that she eventually responded, put the robe on. She said that she sent that because he was running around in a towel and just looking out. He again texted her. She said, "Call me and call me now." Cassie said she responded again, telling Combs that she spoke to security and the escort had left. She told him, "As long as you didn't disturb the guests, they'll leave you be." So Cassie's expecting her 3rd child with her husband, Alex Fine. Okay. We talked about this yesterday too. She has a visible baby bump. She's pregnant, pretty far in. Prior to her testimony yesterday, the defense team made their best effort to have Ventura seated at the witness stand before the jury entered the courtroom. I'm going to ask that victim number 1, when she testifies, be already in the jury box when the jury comes in. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, requested in the courtroom Monday, adding that he was making the request because of Ventura's physical condition. Ventura is expecting her third child. The judge denied the request. In any trial, optics may impact the jury's perception positively or negatively. In this case, however, a source close to Combs told CNN that Agnifilo made the request specifically to avoid Cassie being paraded in past the jury. And that's what I think it was. You know, a pregnant woman, they're going to be, oh my gosh, she's pregnant, you know, all this stuff, you know, maybe garner sympathy or, you know, whatever. Okay, let's check on some updates. Check on the updates here. Let's see. So I think we left off at where she said she was plugging in her phone, text, I guess, and going back to bed. Prosecution says, who was at your home when you got there? Carrie Morgan, she was upset. She called the police. We did that too. Did you speak to them? Yes, but I didn't say who I was talking about. So she's saying she didn't tell the cops that it was Sean Diddy Combs. She spoke with the cops, didn't say his name. And then they left. Prosecution says, why? She said, because she wasn't ready. I really wonder that, though. Like, if you call the cops or somebody calls the cops and you say there was this domestic incident, domestic violence, they show up and you tell them what happened, you speak with them, and they ask you, well, who's the person? Who are you accusing? You say, oh, I don't want to say, I'm not ready. Are the cops really just going to leave? Prosecution said, did Sean try to come over to your apartment? Cassie says, yes, he was banging. That was pretty normal for him, but this is a pretty private building. Prosecution says, did you hear from Miss Coran that day? Cassie says, yes, and I went to see D-Rock and his wife to try to feel safe. Prosecution says, in this photo, what are you wearing? Cassie says, a gown and sunglasses. I had a black eye. Prosecution says, what if any other bruising was visible? Prosecution says, I had several bruises on my leg, but I changed clothes. Prosecution says, what's this? Cassie says, me and Sean at the after party. Okay. All right. Still raining out there in New York? Raining. Okay, let me do a little check-in. What's up to the people on YouTube, of course, the main squad? I'd like to get to 1,000 likes before lunch break, right? We're about to hit 800. We should be able to get 1,000 likes. That shouldn't be a problem. Facebook, what's up? Facebook people there hanging out. Yo, Greg, man, long time no talk. I hope you're doing good, man. Look at you. You got a family and all this stuff. Oh, wow. I hope you're good, man. Shit. I'll try to hit you up sometime. I don't know how. I guess I'll try to DM you. We got some people on Rumble. Good morning to the Rumble people. Some people on Twitch, too. We got a bot on Twitch. Best viewers. What? Best viewers on Streamboot? What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. We'll just block that account. I don't know what they're doing. Okay. And let me see if there's any updates from the other reporters. See what I can pick up. Okay. Cassie says Diddy threw a vase at her during the 2016 attack, the hotel attack. Los Angeles, 9 years ago. She says she walked away from the assault with a fat lip just days before. She was set to attend a movie premiere. I think they have that picture, right? They posted that picture. We should see if we can find that picture. Ventura saw her best friend Carrie shortly after that, and Morgan called the police. Ventura says she spoke to the police but didn't reveal who injured her and she wasn't ready. What do you guys think about that? She didn't give the name. What's up, Steven? Listening from Glasgow. All right. Is that Scotland? I don't know. I hope I got the right place. Damn, it's almost 1 a.m. in Australia. I wish I could stay up. If you can't, don't worry. I made a playlist. So make sure you follow the playlist. Oh, I got to add it to this video. I didn't put it in the description. I made a playlist. So if you're trying to catch up or you got to go to sleep and wake up or whatever, you can just click the playlist. It's also on the front page of my YouTube page. There is a playlist that if you got to hop out, you want to come back later, catch up, you can. I just added it to the description. So we're focused on the hotel incident, the 2016, the very public incident. Prosecutors showed an image of a man called Jules, who was the male escort present at the freak-off held in 2016. That Cassie said she was trying to flee when Sean Combs beat her. They also showed a photo of Ventura after the incident with her lips swollen, wearing sunglasses. I'm pretty sure that picture's out. I'm going to see if I can, in a little bit, if I can find it. If somebody has that picture, though, on ikidmel.com, I have submit a tip. You can just email me the information too. You can submit it through the website. I'm multitasking, but I'll see if I can, I'll see in a little bit if I can find it. Okay. Menendez brothers. Okay. Emails are good. Diddy's got a lot of support. Diddy's got a lot of support. And, it's innocent until proven guilty. He has his day in court, but, there's a lot of stuff out there. Prosecution says, I'm going to show you escorts. Do you know the name of this person? Cassie says no. In what cities did you use him? New York. Prosecution says, who's this? Cassie says, Islander. He was on the Latin Men. We used him in LA and maybe Vegas. And who's this? 2A616. So we're going through a litany of escorts, men, countless men, blacks, Latinos, all kinds, brown, black, beige, maroon. Someone here said, damn, all these former escorts have their names public. That's the thing. Are they going to get hit? Are they going to catch cases after the escorts? I'm surprised they even were able to get some of these escorts. Maybe they don't have a choice, or I don't know. The escorts are probably watching the stream too, watching the trial. The escorts are keeping track, like, oh shit, my name's put out there. Are they catching cases? Are they under the federal list? and being watched. I want to clip this story real quick. If you guys will just join me for this short little segment. Just so this story, supposedly, this story is a woman threw this man's clothes off a balcony. And so he retaliated, and I guess he felt eye for an eye, so he tossed her off the balcony.
Dead, her boyfriend in custody after police say he threw her over the third-floor balcony of her apartment complex. She was taken to the hospital where she died.
The incident was so gruesome that neighbors say they're still traumatized. NBC7's Kelvin Henry joins us now from the scene. Kelvin?
And now, Catherine and Michelle, I spent my day speaking to people in the community, and they say they are horrified by what happened. Now, the crews were out here today, and they were still processing the scene, and I also spoke with more neighbors that were in the immediate vicinity. They say they're still wrapping their heads around what took place.
I'm truly traumatized by what I've seen.
Charles Riddle lives steps away from where the victim lived and where the violent incident happened.
I walk out my door, and the lady that was thrown off the balcony had a bag of, I guess, her boyfriend's clothing, and drops it at the elevator. And she's mad and angry, and she goes back to the apartment.
Charles says at this point, things went downhill.
But I get down the elevator and go downstairs. Before I made it to my car, I hear a commotion, and I turn around. He's got hold of her right over here, and from behind, and he heaves her over the balcony, and she cartwheels, hits head first on the ground.
Almost 24 hours later, and there is still caution taken as a crew is processing what is now a crime scene. According to the San Diego Police Department, the victim was taken to a local hospital with head trauma and a broken leg, but did not survive her injuries. They said the suspect is 57-year-old Albert Turner, and the victim is 61-year-old Irene Williams. Neighbors tell NBC7 they are still shaken up by the incident, and they have concerns.
Nobody is deserving of that, you know, what he did to her yesterday.
This incident happened at San Ysidro Senior Village, which the building's website describes as a senior living community for seniors 55.
A senior living community. That's wild, man. I would hope that at that age, I'd be in peace. Like settled, living, good life, no drama. I hope in my 60s, 50s, and 60s, my shit's not getting tossed out, thrown over a balcony, or chucking somebody. This dude chucked this lady off the balcony. Seniors. How did he even have the strength? What? Wild. Okay. All right. I just wanted to kind of clip that for a little bit. Check that story out. I had it pulled up since this morning or last night. So back to the courtroom. So they're naming off these escorts. Islander. What's the other guy's? The other person's name. It was Islander. Oh, the other person, she didn't know the person's name. They have these numbers. Who is this? 2A616, 25316, 61616, A3B5. But so this one, 2A616, Cassie says we called him Tommy. Prosecution says, who's this? Cassie says, I know him as Greg, an escort in Miami. So I guess a lot of these people, obviously, a lot of the times they don't go by their real names, or they have pseudonyms, like they're not going to use their legal government name probably when doing this type of work. And then prosecution asked her, well, okay, now who's this? This is Jonathan. We saw him in Miami. And then who's this? Somebody in a red baseball cap backwards. She said, I don't know. He looks familiar from the freak-offs. So they're literally naming man after man after man after man after man after man. Like, who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Who's this? A bunch of people. Wow. That's pretty crazy. And so her husband's there sitting there listening to all this. I mean, I think it's amazing. They have kids together. It's something she went through, and he's being supportive. But I mean, at the same time, for some guys too, you don't really want to know or think about really all the men that your woman's been through. How many men, and then especially in this case, well, some guys like that, or I mean, I don't know. Some guys like that, I guess, or sometimes guys doesn't bother them or whatever. But in general, you don't want to, But he's there supporting her in her time of need. But dang, it's a lot of guys, man. And I guess over the years, and how many sessions they did, and wow. And what about? Oh, is that Jonathan Odie? Somebody said that too. Is that Jonathan they're talking about? Hold up. Jonathan, we saw him in Miami. Oh. That might be Jonathan. Yeah, bro. You think that's Jonathan from Miami? Damn. Maybe he's not crazy. Maybe Jonathan isn't crazy. Yeah, I called him crazy. But he could, both could be true. He could be crazy and he was an escort with Diddy and all this stuff. All that could be true. Diddy. Wow. I can't wait to get to the cross. We're almost at 1,000 though, by the way. Thank you guys. We're almost at 1,000 likes. Okay, so Jonathan, we saw him in Miami, and then somebody else. Who's this? Somebody with a red baseball cap backwards. She said, I don't know. He looks familiar from the freak-offs. Then the prosecution says, what did you write here? Cassie says, this is all we do. I'm just getting back on track. I'm sure you can call Kim or something. Prosecution says, what did you mean by this is all we do? Cassie says, freak-offs. Miss Space here says her full-time job 4 times a week for 10 years, as she said yesterday, and the remaining 3 days of the week to recover from the injuries and abuse and drugs during freak-offs lasted 1 to 10 hours per day with multiple men. Damn, bro, that's crazy, dude. That's crazy. That's wild, man. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Oops. Them freak off parties, man. Wow. Let's take a look at some of these other reporters. Yeah, that was wild, dude. On Tuesday, Cassie was shown pictures of men alleged to have participated in the freak-offs and asked to help identify them by name and to testify about how and where they were hired and in what cities. Now Ventura is asked to do that again. The escorts are a racially diverse group of men, some of whom Ventura only remembered vaguely. She was unsure of some names. There were at least 6 men shown, and Ventura said it was her job to hire these men, that it was expected of her by Sean Combs. She said she performed sex acts with all the men shown, and that those who were paid with Sean's money. Okay, that's just how they get him. That's how they're gonna get him. Sean's money. Cassie says it was her job to hire escorts using Combs' money. So the jury was viewing photos of Ventura from movie premiere. They saw a photo after she went there to do a movie fitting. She was dressed in a gown, wearing a large black sunglasses. The sunglasses, she testified, were to hide her black eye. Okay. Oops, I'm gonna do that.
That hasn't happened yet, and we're not close to that. Cassie is 8 months
updates.
pregnant, 7 or 8 months pregnant. She is on the witness stand, very much pregnant. Her third child. She has. She's married now,
Right back, use the restroom.
and not married to Diddy, but that her husband is with her. And there was a debate yesterday about whether he would be allowed to be in the courtroom. And so our understanding is that yes, he is allowed, but certain parts of her testimony he may be asked to step outside, because it's possible that the defense may eventually call him to the stand to try and downplay some of what she is saying. So we'll see how that works out. But that's certainly a part of what we can expect here. So that's what we're looking at so far this morning. I know people have been just fascinated with this case, and how could you not be? How could you not be fascinated with what this is? There's so many elements here. There are elements of the Me Too movement that are happening here. That maybe someone in a position of power like this, will there be justice for someone like Cassie who says that she's the victim, or are the charges being overplayed, or is there a politicization of the charges where the prosecutor's feeling pressured to bring some kind of charges because of this video? Did this previous civil lawsuit from 2023 that was already settled with Cassie, is that going to play a role? So many questions here, and we're just getting started, because Cassie's testimony isn't going to be all the testimony. It's going to be the first bit of this trial. Then there are going to be other witnesses who are going to try to corroborate her story. And then we're going to get into other elements of this case. We haven't heard from any of the law enforcement officers who investigated this case. Prosecutors are just one half of this. Of course, the FBI officials who were there actually on the ground doing some of the investigations, gathering the evidence, they're going to take the stand as well. So we're in for a long haul here. Two questions.
Why did Cassie stay 10 years?
Right.
And second one being, could Cassie possibly implicate herself if she's a part of these street dogs?
So a couple questions. Why did Cassie stay for 10 years? You know, that's going to be the heart of what the defense is going to argue, that this was a 10-year relationship. It was turbulent, to say the least. She says that Combs was consumed by violence and had an obsession with voyeurism, which was sort of at the heart of what was happening with these sex parties. But the defense will say that she was a willing participant. That's probably what they're going to argue. They're going to say that she was wanted to be a musician. She wanted to be a singer. She was a singer. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records. She was 19 years old. She was 2006. She was an adult, and so she wasn't underage when she signed that deal. She described Combs as a larger-than-life entrepreneur and musician that she admired. And when you think about who Diddy is, he is someone who's been in a position of power, been in a position of influence. You know, he's a billionaire, or has a lot of money, was someone who people wanted to be around. And so their argument is going to be that this was not a forced relationship. She was not being kidnapped. She was not being held against her will. Look at this. She was in a photo here. Look at this. She attended an event here. Hey, she accepted a gift. Hey, she was on a vacation. So that's going to be part of it. And eventually it's going to be up to the jury about whether or not they believe that. Now, keep in mind, she's not going to be the only one who testifies. Cassie is the one alleged victim who is testifying publicly. There were supposed to be 3 unnamed victims who will also testify, apparently under similar circumstances. One of them, at least earlier this week, they had lost touch with, so they haven't been able to be in contact with that person. So it's unclear if there's going to be all 3 who will testify or if it's just going to be 2. But certainly that will be a part of this pattern. Cassie lays the foundation, and then you have these other roots that will grow from it. At least that's what the prosecution is hoping. Will she implicate herself in the criminal activity? Hard to say. Certainly she's not charged with anything at the moment. But you could see when the defense has their turn that could be a part of the strategy. Certainly when you're a defense attorney and you're asking questions of someone who is clearly a part of a domestic violence incident that you acknowledge pretty much is a domestic violence incident that Diddy has apologized for, that said he's disgusted with himself about, you have to be careful in how you approach that witness, just in terms of the sensitivity, not just because of who she is, but because of how the jury would feel about that. Certainly you want the jury to feel for your client, and you don't want the jury to hate your client. And so when you question a witness like that, you have to be careful in how you approach it. So could she implicate herself? I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, so we're watching it all closely. It looks like we got some people gathered outside. Not sure if this is part of the case. It is raining, and it looks like half of those people don't have umbrellas, so they could be waiting for their Ubers to show up or something like that. But we know right now it's 11:02. We've been going for a good little bit now, 30, 40 minutes. Let me just check just to make sure we don't have any absolute updates that are coming out of the courtroom, because we are staying right on top of this. And we want to make sure that if something happens, we got it for you right away. But it doesn't look like anything at this moment. Sometimes they take these breaks and the reporters kind of unload all the information that they were able to gather during the testimony. Cassie's been on the stand now for just over an hour and 3 or 4 minutes. She's expected to continue testifying this morning as a witness for the prosecution. In the afternoon, we're expecting that the defense will be able to cross-examine her, and they have already said that they want to introduce text messages that they believe will contradict some of her well, you figure if they are introducing those text messages, it could potentially contradict some of her previous testimony. So we'll see about that. As we said at the outset, as we were covering this, during these first few days, you're going to hear headlines and you're going to see things that are going to be shocking because of the nature of this case. And off we go. So let's keep it tuned in. Let's see, the noon show here on Fox 5. You can watch that. And of course, we're going to have our live camera up outside the courthouse all the time. All right, have a good one.
I will bring the camera that way. Yeah. This one is supposed to be. This one? Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Okay.
All right. What did I miss? Anything? Let's catch up. Let's see what's going on. Of course, 300 people left. Step away from the screen. Of course. All right. So the live tweets, they were talking about this is all we do, and she said, "What?" The prosecutor said, "What does that mean?" Cassie said, "Freak offs." Prosecution says, "Did you try to avoid anything in the freak offs?" She says, "I try to avoid kissing. It seems too intimate. But Sean told me to do it, to kiss the escorts." And then probably kissed him after. Sean liked that kind of stuff. Prosecution says, "What did Sean ask you to do on his 29th birthday?" She says, "A freak off." Ventura says, he had me pulled out of the blind dragon for the freak off. Some security. Prosecution says, "What about blackmail material?" She says he wanted me to fear. Defense says, "Objection!" Judge says, "Overruled." Prosecution, "When would Sean mention the freak off videos?" She said, "To hurt me. One time I was dating someone else and he threatened to release the freak off videos. I'd have to answer to my mother. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should have to do that." Prosecution says, "What did Sean say the impact would be?" She said, "Shame." Prosecution says, "Let me show you a chat. Who's on it?" She says, "Me and Sean, July 22nd, 2013. Prosecution says, "Read your message." Cassie says, "I wrote, please delete the videos off your phone. Too many people have access to your devices." He said, "No. iCloud, all good." He said, "No iCloud, all good. Ambient kicking in." Night, night. Prosecution says, "Sidebar, question mark." Judge says, "Yes." Okay. Judge, 11:10 a.m. Judge has taken a break to change some things in the courtroom. During the break, Combs sits at the defense table, his lawyer Xavier Donaldson leaning down to speak with him. So they're taking a little break, change things around in the courtroom. Kissing is where she draws the line. There's some couples, swinging couples that are married, that they do all kinds of stuff and they mess around, but they have rules. And sometimes the rule is no kissing. You can do all kinds of stuff. Drink, swallow, pee, poop, whatever. As long as you don't kiss the person on the lips. That's my boundary. You can do whatever you want, just don't do that. But even Sean, he wanted her to do that, to kiss the escorts and stuff. Crazy.
Live at the Diddy trial. I just left the courtroom. There was such a tense showdown. I had to run out and tell you guys. Y'all, what am I talking about? Diddy and the prosecution just went off. They went in on each other. And baby, it was bad. Y'all, let's get into this, okay?
Let's get it, baby.
First of all, what is going on? There was supposed to be Cassie coming back on the stand to testify. However, the judge got pissed off because he was like, wait a second, because Maureen Comey was on the ones and twos. I will say they need to have her do all of the questioning. The blonde girl is questioning Cassie again. I said yesterday, I felt like her line of questioning left a lot to be desired from a layman's standpoint. A lot of legal experts said that it was a very, very strong it was a very strong witness testimony on Cassie's part, and they thought that technically, legally, the blonde prosecutor did a good job. Hold on, I'm getting to my point, right? But however, you're not speaking to other legal experts. You're speaking to jurors. Jurors are laymen. So what might fly in the court, right? So what might fly in a court of law for legal professionals? Other people are like, layman people are like, yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, you guys, right? There's the courtroom. Everybody say hi. Anyway, you guys, there was a tense showdown between prosecution and defense. Diddy's defense is playing dirty. They tried to slip something in last minute that was so shocking. Even people in the court were like, oh my God. The judge was getting a little annoyed because the jury was waiting out in the hall and Cassie was going to start to wait out in the hall. However, Tenny Garrett goes and then Mark Agnifilo, stood up and started arguing. You guys, it was a showdown. But get this, the judge literally was like, well, I don't know. What are we talking about? It is evidence. Now listen, they were on a deadline from April 27th. They had to mark all exhibits. Exhibits are things that are going to be entered into evidence. Now there is a difference between if you show a witness something on the stand to impeach them if they're lying, or if you show them something to refresh the memory. That doesn't need to be admitted into evidence.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, what's happening now, what they're preparing for, is they're figuring out the logistics in the courtroom for playing the freak off footage without the gallery being able to see it. So they're going to play the freak off video, but they don't want, I guess, the people sitting in the chairs, the gallery, to watch. Family, friends, people, reporters. I guess it's only going to be for the jury, maybe, and the judge. And the lawyers. So they're going to play freak off video. Freak off footage in the courtroom. Wow. Trying to get the freak off. Imagine this chick, what she would have to say if she got to see the freak off videos. Woo!
Only things that need to be entered into evidence are what the jury sees. What the jury sees is when they go and make their decision, jurors just can't go in that room and be like, yeah, I think they're innocent. I think they're guilty. They have to sort through all the evidence that's given, and they have to tell you one by one why they decided, and they have to move to each piece of evidence to be like, when they said A, that's what makes me think they're innocent. When they said B, they just can't come in and say, yeah, guilty, innocent. They have to show their work. That is why what is admitted into evidence is so very, very important, because if it's not admitted in evidence, the jurors can't use that to actually say that this is the reason they came to their legal conclusion. They can't use it to show their work. Also, when things are admitted into evidence, the prosecution or defense need time to actually say, hey, listen, you could be like, objection, it's hearsay. There are federal rules of procedure. There's also federal rules on what can and cannot be entered into evidence, okay? You want to have proper notice. You want to give proper notice, which is why what the defense was doing was so dirty. And I'm surprised Judge Aaron actually went along with it, because to me, it is, hold on, there's like raindrops falling on my head. There is a legal precedent for that, and I'm surprised that Judge Aaron even went off on doing that and let that happen. So what ended up happening, right? On April 27th, there was a deadline that any exhibits, and exhibits are entered into evidence to give the jury, any of the exhibits would have to, I'm trying to get a good angle, but this rain is hating on me. We are at the live, I snuck out of court to give you guys the tea, I couldn't wait. So defense is saying, defense only gave prosecution 4 exhibits. The 4 exhibits are what the defense plans to use to the jury to prove their case. Now, again.
I'm doing something wrong, man, because I don't have enough people watching, man. I'm doing something wrong. I gotta start taking some shit. I gotta turn up. I gotta do something, man. I gotta get inside or something. By the way, they just released the full 15-minute unedited video of the hotel situation. You guys want to watch it? The hotel, because before we were only seeing, what was it, like 4 minutes, something like that? Yeah, let's do a poll. Let's see if it's 50-50. Y'all ready? Want to watch it together? No, I don't want to watch it, Mel. No, I'd rather just read the text tweets.
4 is an incredibly small number. So because the prosecution, I'm sorry, the defense yesterday did a last minute, oh my God, we don't want Alex fine in the courtroom. And I think it was just Diddy showing his manipulation and control. Sorry, I'm gonna make up his whatever. Today, Maureen Comey, who is so good, stood up and was like, Your Honor, the defense is only giving us 4 exhibits. Okay.
All right. There's Diddy. So she's out there. She comes out, hits the corner. Diddy runs around the corner. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, then he kicks her and stuff. That's crazy, dude. He grabs her stuff, stomps her, and drags her. That is crazy, dude. That's crazy work. So you got to think about that. The jury is watching that. The jury is seeing that. Wow. Let me just start that over real quick. It'll be the last time. So this is the full, they're saying this is the full unedited version release from 2016 March, the elevator video. She comes around the corner. There's no audio to this. This is what's being played to the jury during the trial. She's barefoot. She has her belongings in her hand. She's getting ready to leave, wearing a hoodie. She's putting on her shoes. This was in the middle of a freak off, wasn't it? I thought. Was it after a freak off? There was an escort there. Shoes, got her bag. She's ready to leave. She's done. He zooms around the corner in a towel and just grabs her and like throws her like nothing, and then starts kicking her. That's crazy, man. That's wild. Grabs her stuff and she stays there immobile. I wonder. Crazy. Out in public. I think was this the penthouse? And he drags her back. That is wild. Imagine what you're thinking if you're the jury. She picks up some things off of the floor. She goes to take the elevator. Oh, she makes a call. She makes a call here. Okay. She makes a call. She's trying to make a call. He's saying something. And he's coming back. He won't let her leave. He's coming back. You have to look at the reflection in the mirror. They're like tussling back and forth. Now they're out of sight. Oh yeah, that's the phone right there. Is that her phone? That's the phone. It looks like he maybe grabbed her phone. So she can't call or communicate or whatever. You're not gonna text. That's where he's sitting on the chair. That's what she talks about, sitting on the chair. She's going to use the phone, the hotel phone. I wouldn't be so worried about putting on lip gloss. It's true. This is at 11:15 in the morning. 11:15 in the morning. Would have just taken the stairs. Would have taken the stairs or the. So she has her hands up. He goes and sits back on the chair. You got to look at the. Okay, now this is the hallway. She's walking with her bags. This is 11:16 in the morning. I don't know if she's going back in the hotel or. Damn, look at this guy running down the hall. It's like out of a movie or something, running down the hallways. Probably on drugs, substances. What's going on in that hotel? Oh, Alicia says, I'm pretty sure he rented out the entire top floor. I think he did, yeah. That's why they're all their guests. Wow. Dragging her. 11:17. Coming back down the hallway. Dude, taking the stairs would be the worst idea. I guess so, yeah, because he could push her down the stairs or. Oh, this is the beginning of the video. Okay. This says 11:18. Takes her stuff. Comes back again. Towel and socks, yeah. $11.19. I know, yeah, no sound. This is a bad look for Diddy. This is the first time I believe we're seeing this full unedited video. Before we just saw like a cut of it. Oh, there's this. Is that the guy? Is that what's his name? Israel? Isaac? Israel, I think. No, Flores. Is that him? Yeah, he paid these people money. So they're having a conversation back and forth. Yeah, I think he did rent the full floor. Maybe that's why he felt so comfortable just being out there like that, dragging her and pulling her up. There she is. Damn. $11.29. There's her with her stuff now, Cassie. There he's coming down. I'm thinking this is Israel Flores. That's the guy that testified. He was hotel security. And he testified to on the floor was a destroyed flower vase. The one she says Diddy threw at her. He testified they were arguing, that Cassie tried to walk away to get her phone. Combs told her she wasn't going to leave. And it looks like that's what it is in this video. Combs allegedly offered him what Flores described as a bribe with a 3-word command. He came to the door, closed the door behind him. He grabbed the phone my colleague was holding because I thought he was being recorded. Look, there he is. Is that what's happening now? He eventually gave the phone back. We said we're not recording you and de-escalated the situation. That boy paranoid, man. That boy recording everybody else, so he's worried too of being recorded. You gotta tell Diddy no to the parties, man. Was the cleanup crew? Cassie going to the left. damn, we're running after her, bro. Yeah, all that money is chasing after these chicks. Keeping them against their will. It's crazy. Damn, he's dragging her. Okay. Oh, this is from the earlier. This is 11:11. That was earlier. 11:11. Behind closed doors. The real Diddy. The phone in hand. Floors. Diddy. That's it. That was the full video released. Wow. Holy moly. All right, we need to catch up on tweets. So they released the full 15-minute video. So they took a little break because supposedly, according to one of these reports, they were getting ready to show the freak off video. Prosecution said there's still some issues with the privacy screen, so we'll put that off and do something else now. Judge says, okay. Back to Cassie, bring in the jury. So the prosecution offers more exhibits. Prosecution says, what did you say here? Cassie says, I'd been told there was a sexually explicit video out there about me. I reached out to Sean. Prosecution says, then what? Cassie says, we were driving back to NYC from Atlantic City to talk to this DJ. Who kid? Who kid? Oh. Prosecution says, did that happen? Cassie says, at a restaurant. Prosecution says, who was security's or what was security's role? Cassie says, to intimidate. They were lining the room. Prosecution says, who was there? Cassie says, Uncle Paulie, James Cruz. Prosecution, how would you recover from a freak off? Cassie says, I'd take opiates. I wanted to feel numb. We'd get massages, IV fluids. The chef would cook us something. Prosecution, how often did you take opiates after freak offs? Cassie says, often. I got urinary tract infections. Shh. I'm not surprised with the UTI stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if she's gotten more than that with all the stuff in unprotected sex, you know, that they did so frequently. That's wild, man. Let me see what these other reports say. So they were having trouble. They're trying to set it up so they can show the freak off videos, but they don't want to show it to the gallery, I guess, just for the jury and the judge and the lawyers. Maybe for Cassie as well and Diddy. Ketamine was the drug of choice for freak offs, Cassie said. We talked about that earlier. The freak offs were often fueled by ketamine. Ketamine, Sean had it. It took time out of the freak off, she testified. It was my preferred drug because it was the most disassociative. Ventura told the courts yesterday that freak offs were when she had sex with other men at Combs' direction. Okay. Footage of Sean Diddy Combs' alleged freak offs with Cassie Ventura won't be shown to the media, the judge ruled. So that's why they're trying to get these privacy screens, because they don't want to show the freak offs to the media. I could only imagine, imagine, what I'm saying, it's shown to the media, the people in the gallery, and I would assume that Diddy's family would leave. I mean, I don't think his mama would want to see that, or his kids. But they decided, the judge ruled not to show it to the public, just for the jury. Reporters in the courtroom won't see or hear the videos, but they may be able to watch the jury for reactions. So that's all they can see is that I can't imagine, man. Jury, imagine you're a juror in that case, and you got to watch these freak offs. Ooh. Sean Diddy Combs accused Cassie of abandoning him in the 2016, shortly after the alleged assault at the hotel. It was caught on tape. Combs told Ventura, "You're going to abandon me all alone," according to the text messages shown in court. "Call me now. I got 6 kids. Please call me. I'm getting arrested," even though he wasn't arrested. So he was using that to manipulate her, I guess. Help, help, help. They're going to take me away. It says prosecutors might not show freak-off videos to the jury until after lunch, citing some issues with the screens. Okay. The prosecution will continue questioning Cassie in the meantime. The jury's walking back in the room. That was 10 minutes ago. Okay. Wow.
So these are just little daggers that the prosecution is trying to set up so that it's going to be harder for the defense team to really try to take on Cassie in these ways by having her first say it like, "I did not want to come out against Diddy, and I did not want the police to arrest him because I fear that he would release the videos and that she would be ashamed and maybe called a slut and so much more," according to her testimony just moments ago. So we are providing you these updates all in real time to the best of our abilities as well. We could also tell you that Combs in the courtroom today is in a cream-colored knit sweater over a button-down white shirt with gray pants. He occasionally dons thick black-rimmed glasses When exhibits are shown, he stood and hunched over a laptop with two of his lawyers as his other lawyers conferred with prosecutors and the judge at the bench about logistics for the playing of freak-off videos. All right, we are also getting some new updates. The judge has called a 10-minute recess as they arrange some stuff in the courtroom.
They're behind, yeah.
Cassie Ventura was discussing just moments ago how video of her from the freak-offs were used to blackmail her. She told the court that Sean Combs would threaten to leak the videos, a prospect that horrified her. It's horrible and disgusting. No one should do that to anyone, Ventura testified. The videos would make me look like a slut. Be ashamed. The government
Lindsay,
is now
what's up?
having a sidebar before they show the next items that will present to the court. Ventura slumped down in her chair and is looking around the room. The court appears to be discussing the presentation of freak-off videos while the jury is on a short break. The defense attorney just asked if his team could see the evidence that is about to be exhibited so that they are not shown on the monitors that are on their table. Lawyers and courtroom staff are busy during the break working out logistics for playing the freak-off footage without the gallery being able to see it. And we are back for you here on Live Now from Fox, continuing to give you the updates in real time. We are learning now that prosecutors have showed an image of a man called Jules, who was the male escort present at the freak-off held in 2016 at the Los Angeles hotel that Cassie Ventura said she was trying to flee when Sean Combs beat her. They also showed a photo of Ventura taken after the incident. Her lip is swollen, and she is wearing sunglasses with her hoodie pulled over her head. She took the photo in an Uber as she left the hotel. She said she took the selfies on her Uber ride away from the Los Angeles hotel. She said she wore sunglasses because she had a black eye. Once home, she said a friend of hers saw her injuries and was super upset because she'd seen me with black eyes and busted lips before. Cassie said her friend called police, but she declined to reveal who had injured her once police arrived, so they left. In that moment, I didn't want to hurt him that way, Cassie testified. I wasn't ready. The court is also being shown text exchanges between Cassie Ventura and Sean Combs from the day of the 2016 incident at the hotel in Los Angeles. In the messages, Combs is pleading with Ventura. Call me, he texted, then call now. I went and checked everything and spoke to security. As long as you don't disturb the other guests, they'll leave you be, Ventura wrote to Combs in another message. I want to repeat that again. I went and checked everything and spoke to security. As long as you don't disturb the other guests, they'll leave you be, Ventura wrote to Combs in another message. Again, a big part of today is prosecution asking Cassie once again questions about the 2016 incident. Hotel footage has no audio, and for stretches of time, Sean Combs is seen talking to Cassie Ventura. Ventura said that he was calling me out by my name, in other words, insulting her and calling her slurs, and told her that she wasn't going to leave him there. And again, we're not yet at the material found in the two drives the prosecutor has asked Cassie Ventura about. The prosecutor is asking Ventura to flesh out certain points from her testimony just yesterday. Asked whether she fought back when Sean Combs would physically attack her. Ventura said that she did earlier in their relationship. She said she learned that doing so would make it worse for herself, that it would escalate the violence. Combs sometimes acted surprised and shocked that she fought back, Ventura said. Other times, this would lead to more anger and frustration. The government is now asking Cassie Ventura to review the hotel footage from 2016, which shows Sean Combs attacking her in a hallway. This is where the government ended its questioning of Ventura just yesterday. The beating marks the only time Ventura ever tried to leave a freak-off early according to her testimony from yesterday. And just moments ago, prosecutors showed an image of a man called Jules, who was the male escort present at the freak-off held in 20.
Jules, let's get some inside courtroom updates, man. What's up, everybody? What's up? How you guys doing? Been here all morning. For those that just joined, help me out with the like button. They want to show the freak-off videos. They're going to show the freak-off videos in the courtroom, but they're not going to show it to the people in the gallery. You know, people sitting in the back, watching, reporters, podcasters, independent journalists, YouTubers, you know, whatever. They don't want those people to see. The only people that are going to see the freak-offs is the jury. I'm assuming the judge and the lawyers. I don't know if Cassie, I guess Cassie. I don't know how detailed they're going to get, how graphic how much they're going to want these people to see. It's crazy. Imagine if they let the journalists see, though. I mean, imagine the descriptions and the information that would come out of this. Let's check for some live updates. Oh, it looks kind of crazy. It looks crazy. And remember, on the right-hand side is live tweet updates. It's coming in every couple of minutes, but I'm going to read them all to you. But if you want to, you can also read for yourself if you like. And so the last we left off at is Cassie was talking about getting UTIs regularly. Okay, she was taking opiates to self-medicate, to numb herself, and often getting UTIs. The prosecution asked her, were the UTIs painful? She says, very. Antibacterials didn't work anymore. Oh my gosh, bro. This is just crazy, dude. This is crazy, man. What sores? Oh, hold on. I skipped the whole thing here, too. So the antibiotics didn't work anymore, or antibacterials didn't work anymore. How did it feel during freak-off? She says, burning. I would not advise it. Prosecution says, let's read this out loud. Cassie says, in quotes, I have all these sores on my tongue. I have another UTI. Dude. Then says, the prosecution says, what sores? Cassie says, friction in my mouth. Prosecution says, from what? She says, from oral. Oral, sex. Prosecution said, you said another UTI, then sad face emoji. Cassie said, I was open with him about them. Prosecution says, or in quotes, so you feel sick. I guess Sean was saying that to her. Cassie reads this out loud in quotes. Why are you sorry? Question mark. Are you sorry? Cassie said, I took blame for things. Wow, dude. This is like... It goes on to say, I guess they moved on. Let me see. I guess they moved on from that. Because it goes on to say here, the prosecution then says, which escort would go to sex clubs with you and Sean? Cassie says, Jules. Prosecution said, the escort from the Intercontinental in LA. Cassie says, yes. Prosecution said, did you want to have sex with Jules ever? Cassie, she said no and laughed, but said I knew him. Prosecution says, why did you do it? She says because of Sean. Damn, dude. Mamma mia. What are you guys saying in the chat? What do you think about that? Oh, man. Oh, jeez. And we're just hearing the details. Imagine what's on video. And Sean Combs didn't feel nasty about this himself, if not for Cassie, but his own safety and protection. He didn't care about the sores and UTIs and whatever kind of infections might have been going around. Ugh. Oh, he posted an exhibit. That's cool. Let's check that out. Let's see here. He posted an exhibit. We're gonna take a look at this here in a second. Wow, dude, that's crazy. Okay, so let me refresh here. We see it there on the corner side. I'm going to, okay, where did he post that? Let's see, hold on a second. There we go, he posted on his page. Okay. So we'll read this exhibit. Let's pause here for a second and read the exhibit. This says, now amid the second day, Cassie Ventura's direct testimony in U.S. versus Sean. Here's an exhibit from the trial, the LA hotel security email. Yeah, let's check that out. I downloaded it. Let's put it up on the screen, full screen. Unless you guys want me to just keep it off the screen, but. Okay. Today, so let's see here, the header. Security, LA security. Pics from today's 6th floor. This was March 5th, 2016, 3 p.m. Okay. Greetings. Today, March 5th, 2016, at approximately 11:14 a.m., I received a call from Instant Services, Wanda, stating that she had just gotten distress call from 6th floor. I then looked at the cameras to familiar with the situation up on the floor. All I saw before I took off immediately was a male, black, wearing only a towel, walking back and forth. I arrived at the scene at 11:15 a.m. I noticed that the male was black. I noticed that the male black was rapper Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy. I observed Mr. Combs sitting down on the far left chair of the 6th floor, and the female who was closer to the hallway, later identified as CC by Mr. Combs. I saw the damage that had been done, and I began to defuse the situation. By advising Mr. Combs to understand his status and the safety and concerns of our guest, he began yelling at Miss CC, and I advised both of them to separate each other, that it wasn't convenient for both of them to continue this, especially in the hallway and in a towel. I then proceeded to advise him to return back to his room. Mr. Combs began to offer me a bribe. You take care of this, I got you. Let's go to my room. Shit, I don't know what you're trying to bring me to your room for. I then responded with, sir, I know who you are, while extending my arm to him to shake his hand, and said, all I ask is for respect for the guest and myself, so do me the favor and let's return you to your room. He got up and began to walk to his room. As we made our way down the north hallway, Miss Cece was behind us, coming from the south hallway. Mr. Combs noticed her turning back and began to raise his voice. I then told him that if he didn't respect the guests, then he would be escorted out of the property. We walked over to his room, 602, and when he went inside and Miss Cece was told to leave by Mr. Combs, so she did just that. Mr. Combs opened the door and brought out a currency band wrapped around $100 and told me to, again, thank you, and said, take care of this and I take care of you. I declined the money and told Mr. Combs that all we needed was for him to stay in his room until checkout, which was today. I left the scene at 11:25. I took the elevator down. I saw Miss Cece and advised her that I did not want him to see her, so I walked over to the valet until her ride got there. I asked her what we would need, some information from her to stand by. I then walked over to Maud at his office and advised him of the situation, that I needed him present. We then walked over to Miss Cece, and she was unable to locate We then went up to the 6th floor and took pictures of the guest lobby, elevator, landing, and made our way to guest room 602. Maud Addy wanted to introduce himself and let him know of the hotel rules and advise him that the damages would be charged to the room. When Mr. Combs came out, he was about to start yelling, still in his towel, but Maud Addy and I had stopped him before he did and advised him that we were not there to make it bigger than it already was. He saw Maud Addy holding his phone and automatically assumed that he was being recorded, so he grabbed his phone, or grabbed his hand, then grabbed his hand and told him to back off and took his hand off of Maud Addy. He was then told no one was recording him, that the safety of the privacy of the guests is important to the hotel, and if he tried to do something like that, he would get kicked out and escorted off the property by LAPD. He calmed himself down and apologized and stated, "It's just that I don't want to lose anything, and I can lose it all." Well, look where you're at now. We then reassured him that all we need was for him to calm down and to not have any more scenes from that time until his checkout. We then left the scene and resumed normal operations. Note, we will be conducting extra patrols until his checkout, in which we will be taking pictures of how the room is left. At this moment, here are the pictures that Maud Addy took of the guest lobby. Please stand by until we have all the pictures. Mr. Combs is not checked out yet. Okay, that was one of the exhibits. All right.
From inside of the courtroom at this hour, Michelle.
Bianca, if today is anything like yesterday, we can expect to see raw emotion and hear details of humiliating sex. The jury was shown a photo of Cassie Ventura, a selfie she took in an Uber after she left that Los Angeles hotel in which she was beaten by Diddy. And that was caught on surveillance video, and the jury was shown that video again today. And in that selfie, she points out that she was wearing sunglasses because she wanted to cover up a black eye, but also pointed out a swollen, visible lip. Now, this morning, you can see that his family, Diddy's family, was walking into court again today in the pouring rain. They continued to sit through graphic testimony to show support to the disgraced music mogul. Testimony today went back to testimony yesterday, and Cassie clarified that during one of the freak-offs, a security guard mentioned that Suge Knight was at a nearby diner. That's when they allegedly packed up guns and left. Cassie testified also today that after she left in that Uber, Diddy bombarded her with texts, trying to guilt her into answering him by saying things like, "You're going to abandon me all alone," and "I got 6 kids, please call me, I'm getting arrested." Now, she also went on to say he ruined her 29th birthday by pressuring her into another one of those so-called freak-offs. He pressured her by leaving early. They were at a karaoke club with her friends. Bianca?
Michelle, we do know that Cassie has identified over like a dozen escorts who participated in that alleged freak-offs. One of them was in the shootout with police after he stormed the Trump National Golf Club.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
Quite a crazy connection.
Jonathan Odie.
Bianca, his name is Jonathan Odie, and he was seen on camera going into the lobby of the Trump Golf Resort down in Florida. And after that shootout and after he was arrested, he claimed that he was a sex slave of Diddy. Now, this was back in 2018, and Cassie identified him today. Bianca?
Michelle, some stuff that I heard on social media was stricken from the testimony was that maybe Cassie was asking for some of these violent sexual acts to occur. That's what some of the, I guess, escorts were saying. Was that taken out of testimony so that the jury was not going to be able to use that later?
Yeah. As of now, some things that she has said, the judge has told the jury rather to disregard. So there are some things that he is telling them to take into account and others that he is not. So at the moment right now, we're still determining what can be used for that testimony.
Interesting how this is all going to play out. It's going to be a long couple of weeks as this unfolds. Michelle, thank you for staying on top of it. And now to Fox.
All right, that was just some of the coverage there from Fox 5 in New York as we continue to really bounce around and give you some of the insight that we definitely can provide to you here on Live Now from Fox as we wait Now for more updates coming from the Diddy trial. They should be getting closer to lunch right now. Yesterday they went lunch about 12:30, so we'll be keeping an eye on that for you as well. But also, Cassie Ventura was just asked about the health issues she had as a result of the frequent freak-offs. Ventura said that she had a lot of stomach issues because of the constant drug use. She would also have frequent urinary tract infections, sometimes back-to-back. Sometimes participated in freak-offs while infected as well. It got to the point, Ventura said, when she was taking common antibiotic treatments for UTIs that were no longer worked for her. She would also have stinging and uncomfortable sores on her tongue, the result of the freak-offs, the friction in my mouth, and substance abuse. Emotionally, she felt empty after the days-long events that she described here in open court. And again, we are providing you with these details to the best of our abilities from the court reporters that are inside court right now. And again, we are getting you more updates as we wait for them. And we'll be definitely passing them along to you in the meantime.
So let's check. Let's get some of the updates in the courtroom. Yesterday, I don't know if anybody remembers. I think they went to lunch around 12:30. I think it was like that, and it was gonna be a 30-minute lunch, but they came back almost like an hour later. So I'm pretty, maybe they'll be the same thing today. Maybe they go around 12:30. They come back at 1:30 or close to that time. So we left off with the whole thing of UTI, and the antibacterials not working anymore. That's pretty bad when they don't work anymore. You've taken it so much, your body is just, and the sores in her mouth, and so they're talking about this escort, Jules, which escort would you go to the sex clubs with? Which escort would go to the sex clubs with you and Sean? Jules, this is the escort from the Intercontinental in LA. Cassie says yes. Did you want to have sex with Jules? Cassie laughed and said no, but I knew him. And why did you do it? Because Sean wanted that, according to Cassie. And so you see some of the updates. Prosecution says, who was present when Sean put his hands on you at freakouts? Cassie said sometimes the escort was there too. Okay, is Jules going to testify? We need Jules to take the stand. Prosecution said, in the same room? Cassie says yes, Jules. Prosecution asked, and in the suite? Cassie says yes. Prosecution says, were they aware? Defense says, objection! Judge overrules that. Cassie says yes. Yes, they were aware. Cassie then says, the escorts would ask me if I was okay afterward. Prosecution, in what cities did he put his hands on you? Cassie says New York, Los Angeles, Miami. Prosecution asked again how frequently. Cassie said too frequently. Prosecution said, what's the Abbey? Cassie said it's a gay club in LA. I went there with my friend. Prosecution says, where were you going? Cassie said to a music festival in Canada by Drake. Oh, Drake. BBL Drizzy. BBL. Sean came to my home and tried to attack me. I was thrown into the bed frame. That's what Cassie said. And so now the prosecution says, what's this? And I guess they're showing a picture. Cassie says, a photo of my eye afterward. Prosecution says, who took you to the doctor? Cassie says, D-Rock. Prosecution said, did you send this photo to Sean? Cassie said, yes. And I wrote it. So you can remember I wanted him to be sorry about it at least. So she sent this picture to Sean Diddy Combs. Prosecution says, in this photo, where were you? Cassie says, in the green room in Toronto. I put my hair over my eye. Then we went to the Hamptons. Cassie continues to say, Sean wanted to have a freak off in the Hamptons. We got a hotel and an escort. Prosecution says, which one? Cassie says, Dave. I took GHP and I went into a G-hole. I didn't even know they had G-holes. She said she blacked out. I know they had K-holes, special K ketamine. This is a replay from Fox.
Partner and husband Alex Fine walking out of the courtroom there, as you can see.
Oh, that's Alex. That's the Cassie's husband.
Pregnant wife just today there in Lower Manhattan. In the meantime, though, Nima, I have to ask this. So the defense's argument goes as follows. Yeah, Diddy may be a jerk. He may be a sexual deviant. He may be into kinky sex. Those aren't
Piss,
crimes.
poop,
What do you make
UTIs?
of that? What would the jury make of that argument?
It's a good argument because really all they can argue is consent here. I mean, that's what separates sexual activity between consenting adults from sex trafficking. And they have to admit the physical force because it's caught on video. So when you're talking about consent, and this is something that we see in a lot of domestic violence and sexual assault cases, you have someone like Cassie Ventura that remained in the relationship for many, many years. When they broke up, she chose to leave on her own. So the argument is that, well, you know, if you're really being raped, if you're really being sexually assaulted, why did you continue to go back? The prosecution tried to elicit some of that testimony on direct, and it's true that Cassie loved Diddy, and she would perform these sex acts, both because she loved him, but also because she feared him. And we're going to hear from an expert witness that's going to talk about the psychology of abuse. And you know, I've tried many cases involving sexual assault and domestic violence, and jurors often tell me afterwards that they know of someone in a toxic relationship with an abusive partner, and they understand why maybe someone would choose to stay, even though they would not, or you and I would not. That is part of the cycle of abuse, so it's not surprising in this case.
So is another kind of arrow in the prosecution's quiver going to be the juxtaposition between Cassie's life then and Cassie's life now? Do you think they're going to make that distinction? And will it sway the jury, so to speak?
I think so, even if not explicitly, because her life now isn't necessarily relevant, but people are going to see that she's about to give birth and that she is in a loving relationship right now, and she has healed from this past trauma. And it really, you know, we're talking about what can someone consent to? You know, can they consent to, you know, being forced to have sex with a male prostitute while, you know, their husband covers them in baby oil and directs them what to do? Is that really within the boundaries of consent in a decent society? I think it's a very tough argument for the defense to make.
In some cases, yes. In this case, you know, it's hard to say that. But in some cases, yes. Some people into all this crazy shit.
It's the only argument they can make. Frankly, they have to accept some responsibility for all of this. But I think they're really trying to thread this needle, Andrew, and I'm not sure they're going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many hypothetical questions. I mean, I know we're still very early on in this trial. Two of them are as follows. Will some type of plea deal be struck throughout the duration of this? Or will Diddy testify? Will
Diddy testify?
Be called to testify? Will the
That'd
defense
be
put
so
him
interesting.
Up to testify?
Yeah.
Those obviously remain to be seen. What other questions do you have? I know we're early on in this trial, Nima.
Those are two of the biggest questions. I'll answer them, and I'll come up with some of my own. You know, will there be a plea deal? I think it's unlikely, and this is why. There's really not any type of deal that the prosecution is going to offer that will not result in significant prison time for Combs. He obviously was trying repeatedly to get out on bond. Here's someone that doesn't want to spend any time in prison. He's not some sort of career criminal in terms of his criminal history and being incarcerated. He's fought charges before and won the New York nightclub shooting case. And he really has unlimited means. And, you know, when people talk about these high profile cases involving celebrities, and sometimes people think celebrities get a pass, but I can't imagine the Department of Justice giving any type of deal that doesn't result in at least double digit or 10 years in federal prison, because there's so many eyes on this case. Imagine the uproar if they gave away the farm by offering him probation or, you know, 1 or 2 year sentence. That's just not in the cards. So I don't think there's really any room to negotiate here between what the defense would accept and what the government can offer in a case like this. With respect to Combs testifying, I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think we know yet. It's really going to depend on how that cross-examination goes. Okay. If indeed they're able to beat up, and this is obviously metaphorically, Cassie and victim 2 and 3 on the stand, and they think they can have a strong
Oh, shit. Sorry, guys. So dramatic. Welcome back. This is Law and Crime. This is Anjanette Levy.
Good afternoon. I'm Anjanette Levy, and you are watching our live lunch show Q&A here on
Lunch
Law
show.
and
It's
Crime.
lunchtime?
We are covering the federal sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. He is on trial
Combs, baby.
in the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan.
Okay, let's catch up real quick the inside before they're taking a lunch break now. Let's catch up the inside, and then we'll listen in on the Q&A lunch Q&A. And so she's at this music festival, Cassie, in Canada by Drake, and Sean came to my home and tried to attack me, she said that he threw her into the bed frame. And then the prosecution puts a photo, and Cassie says it's a photo of my eye afterward. Who took it to the doctor? D-Rock. Okay. Prosecution says, did you send this photo to Sean? She said, yes, because I wanted him to be sorry about it, at least. In this photo, where were you? She says, in the green room in Toronto. I put my hair over my eye. Then we went to the Hamptons. Sean wanted to have a freak off in the Hamptons. We got a hotel and an escort. Prosecution says, which one? Which escort? Cassie says, Dave. I took GHB. I went into a G hole, which I didn't know that was a thing, and blacked out. I woke up nude in the shower, and Dave and Shane were freaking out. Hold up. Wait. Whoa. What does that mean? Does that mean that Diddy and does that mean Diddy and this guy, Dave, were having it? They were having a freak off on their own while she was passed out? Oh, no. Sean wanted to have a freak off. Took JHB. I went into a black hole. Or I went into a G hole and blacked out. I woke up nude in the shower. Dave and Sean were freaking out. I bugged out. It wasn't pretty. That's what that means? Dave is an escort. Dave's the escort. Wow. Wow, Mamma Mia. Oh, hell no. Wait till academics gets to that part. Oh, my gosh. Prosecution said, then what? Cassie says, I spoke with friends of Sean and we had a freak off. Prosecution says, what's this? Cassie said, my eyebrow healed up a little bit a week later. I have permanent scar on my eyebrow. Prosecution said, what's this? Cassie said, me at the Canis Festival. Prosecution said, what happened to at Canis? Cassie said, Sean accused me of taking drugs from his boat. He threw me off, but my passport was still on the boat. Prosecution said, and you were on the red carpet that same night? Cassie said, yes. Prosecution said, did you attend the movie? Cassie said, yes. How often did you get to New York? How did you get back to New York? Prosecution asked. Cassie said, on a commercial flight. I traded my seat to get away, but he traded to get next to me. Prosecution said, what did he show you? Cassie said, freak off videos. He played them for me. One was on his laptop. He said he released them. He said that he would release them. Prosecution said, how did you feel? She said, trapped. Prosecution asked, when you landed in New York, what did you do? Cassie said, we went to dinner. Then he wanted to have a freak off, so we had a freak off. Prosecution said, why did you do it? Cassie said, to make him not threaten me. Wow. Okay. It looks like maybe they're going to lunch.
About different things that she participated in, how she participated, the payments that were made, how the payments were made, and the organization of all of this. I think it's going to be very interesting the way the cross-examination takes place and the strategy of who takes the cross-examination, who is going to be the individual from the defense party that is going to cross-examine her. And my guess is it's going to be either Temi Garagos or the young lady from Atlanta, who I think is very talented as well. Because I don't think one of the male defense attorneys would be able to get away with the questioning that's going to be necessary in order to prove that for the defense that she should actually be a co-defendant and not a victim in the case.
Well, you gave us a lot to talk about there, and you raised a lot of really good points, Bradford. So, Melba, I'll move over to you. Bradford's a criminal defense attorney. Melba, you were a prosecutor at one point in time. Bradford brings up a really good point there. Cassie Ventura is 8.5 months pregnant, so she could maybe go into labor at any time. But the government probably wanted to start off very powerfully and very strongly, and this is their star witness. So do you think it's not a good idea that they started off with Cassie Ventura? I mean, Bradford thinks they maybe should have waited.
Yeah, so I'm going to politely disagree with Bradford. I believe in the theory of primacy and recency. So I tried a ton of homicide trials. And again, you have to make sure that you're capturing the jury's attention. And this is somebody that the jury's been waiting for. So let's just give the people what they want. They want to hear from Cassie, and her testimony is actually going to set the stage for a lot of what's going to come afterwards. Because again, as rightfully stated, she is the star witness, and everything else that comes after that in terms of the video, in terms of any other evidence, it still somehow centers around her. Even what happened with the administrative assistant, I believe she's going under the pseudonym of Mia. Anything that she has to say is also going to be likely corroborating everything that Cassie said. So when you start off with Cassie and then you have all of these other witnesses and all of this other evidence corroborating everything she says, then the prosecution can come back in the end and argue, listen, we started off with Cassie and this is how we've proved our case. Boom, boom, boom. So you start strong and you end strong, and you bury the folks in the middle that may not add as much to the case as you would want.
And let's keep in mind, too, that Cassie Ventura was with Sean Combs the longest out of all of the women who will be named as victims in this case. I mean, she was with him for years and years. So this was a long-term relationship. I want to turn to Tyler now. Tyler, you're a criminal defense attorney, just like Bradford. We're talking about female attorneys, either Tenny Garagos or Nicole Westmoreland, who is the newest member of the team. She works with Brian Steele, I believe, down in Atlanta. One of those two women will be cross-examining Cassie Ventura. They're going to have to be very careful in how they approach her, but at the same time, they kind of have to be very aggressive too, because she is the government's star witness. So how do you see this going? Because they are going to say that she was involved in this, that she was a willing participant, this was consensual.
Right. That's what they're going to say.
And they're going to bring up the civil suit, I would assume, on cross-examination and say that she wanted money out of this.
Well, they're going to walk a real tight line when they cross-examine Ms. Ventura. Like we all know, she's 8 months pregnant right now, and she's a woman, is going to be likely a woman who's going to cross-examine her. But if they start off too aggressive, they have a run the risk of turning the jury off really early in the case. There are other victims out there. They have to walk a real tight line to make sure they can score as many points where they can, but also make sure they don't turn off the jury by being overly aggressive and not being considerate of just everything that Ms. Ventura has gone through. And I think the optics of her being pregnant goes in the favor of the prosecution. Just naturally, as a society, we like to protect women, especially pregnant women. So there could be some jurors who could get turned off very early if the defense comes off too strong early in the case. Most
definitely. I mean, it may not even be something the jurors really think about, but the pregnancy may have an impact on them. We're going to take your questions now, but just an update from court. The assistant U.S. attorney asked Cassie Ventura about the freak-offs and other things. How did you feel? Ventura responded, trapped.
They're still going. They haven't taken lunch yet.
The attorney then asked, when you landed in New York, what did you do? And Ventura responded, "We went to a dinner, then he wanted to have a freak off, so we had a freak off." The assistant U.S. attorney then asked another question, "Why did you do it?" And Ventura said, "To make him not threaten me." And that's a key part of this case. A key part of the sex trafficking statute in this case is coercion. That's part of.
So a G-hole, okay, this is one of the things that Cassie had mentioned. Cassie said that she went into a G-hole, okay, from taking GHB. Now, I've heard a K-hole from ketamine when these people take really high doses of ketamine. And these people, I'm telling you, the stories that I've heard, people take small doses of ketamine, they go partying, they have a good time, they have fun, which is like a sedative, but also euphoric. But if you take higher doses, you can literally trip and you can be in a completely different, in your head, somewhere else, in another world, in another planet. You forget you exist. I forgot what they call it. Ego death, experience ego death. Well, a G-hole says it refers to a state of extreme sedation or unconsciousness caused by taking too much GHB. GHB can kill you, too. A central nervous system depressant is basically the equivalent of GHB of blacking out. Think of it as falling into a deep involuntary hole, like you hit the switch on your brain. You hit off the switch. People who fall into a G-hole often pass out or become unresponsive, lose time or memory, amnesia, may experience confusion or hallucinations when coming out of it, risk respiratory depression, coma, or death, especially if combined with alcohol. Very dangerous to mix alcohol and GHB. It's not a fun or trippy experience. It's dangerous. The term is often used in club or party scenes where GHB is misused recreationally, but it often highlights the serious risks of overdose. And so they let me just give you a little quick update in the court, and then I'll unmute the video that's playing. Let's read from these from June 13, 2013. Had Sean been violent with you before? Prosecution asked Cassie. She says yes. Had you told him before you didn't want to do freak-offs? Cassie says yes. Prosecution says you said you needed GHB. Cassie says yes. And that 2 escorts not available. Cassie says, I wrote only Paul available, or Jake, the white guy, but he can't do it until 11. The other guy can't do earlier. It's just one more person knowing our secret. Prosecution says, what did you mean? Cassie says the freak-offs. Prosecution says, what is SLS? Cassie says, a hotel in Hollywood. Okay.
Keep your personal life and your professional life separate, but here's an instance where it's one and the same. And so now you've got the cycle of violence where you have a violent incident, then I would assume, because that's usually how it goes, the perpetrator, Diddy in this case, would be like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do it. Oh my gosh, the flowers, the jewelry, all the other things. I really love you. This is never going to happen again. And of course, the survivor, because they are in love with the person, continues in the relationship. And then there's a period of peace. It could be months, it could be weeks, it could be a day. It all varies based on the relationship. And again, over time, that cycle gets tighter and tighter, where more violent events start to happen in a shorter amount of time versus maybe in the beginning of the relationship where there might be a violent incident and then the next one hypothetically could be a month later. So the cycle is basically the violent event, apologies, a honeymoon period, a buildup, and then another violent incident. And so she's been testifying about how he's brutalized her, but then again, you see them out on the red carpet, you see, her with jewelry and cars and all of these things, which is basically kind of like blood contributions, right? Because he's trying to get her to stay with him and obviously not report and not tell everybody his business. And again, a lot of this we saw in terms of the lawsuit, how quickly he settled, because he knew what was all going to come out. And he knew once the public started to hear about this, this was going to be very destructive for him. And of course, the law enforcement investigation really took it over the top. So I think this is going to be very much centered on the battered person's experience and having those experts really explain to the layperson how these types of relationships work. Because again, it defies logic in a lot of ways. Why would you stay with somebody who beats you? Well, they don't beat you on the first date. because there wouldn't be a second date. This is something where the
Right.
relationship develops and then the violence.
Yeah, and Sean Combs's attorneys conceded in opening statements, yes, there was domestic violence in this relationship. I mean, they can't deny it. I want to give you a little bit of an update from court. There's been a lot of photographic evidence this morning that they took from Cassie Ventura's phone, and they've been introducing that through Cassie's testimony, showing photographs of Cassie Ventura's injuries to the jury. These were taken from her phone and other devices. In one exchange with the assistant U.S. attorney, they're showing an incident from Toronto. She said she put her hair over her eye to hide a bruise, and then they went to the Hamptons. She said that Sean Combs wanted to then have a freak off in the Hamptons, so they got a hotel and an escort. She said that the escort was named Dave. She took the drug GHB, and she went into a G hole, which sounds like some type of blackout. She woke up and she was naked in the shower, and Dave and Sean were freaking out.
Freaking out?
Bugged out. It wasn't pretty, is what she said in the testimony. She said, then what? Ventura responded, I spoke to a friend of Sean's, and then we had a freak off. And then they showed another photograph, and it shows her eyebrow that had healed up a little bit a week later, and she has a permanent scar on her eyebrow, she said, from this. And she is shown another photo from the Cannes Film Festival.
Dave and Sean were freaking out. Oh, I took freaking out as they were freaking together, like they were having a thing together.
Said Sean accused her of taking drugs from his boat and threw her off of the boat, but her passport was still on the boat. She was on the red carpet for some type of event that night, and she said she attended the movie. They then went to New York. There was a commercial flight that they took. She traded her seat to get away, but he traded to get next to her. What did he show you? Freak off videos. So we've heard about this, him showing videos and then using that as kind of blackmail material, if you will. She said that he played the freak off videos for me on one of his laptops. He said he would release them. So that's some pretty compelling evidence, Tyler. How do you combat that as a defense attorney?
The only way I think this can be combated is shown that it was consensual. They're going to paint out Ms. Ventura as somebody who was in this relationship for her own benefit, whether it's her music career, modeling career, and any other perks that she got from being associated with Mr. Combs. That's the only thing I really think that the jury can try to do. And also say, well, look, the defense lawyers could try to do, and say if they were, of course, he was not acting as a good partner would be, but is this trafficking? Was she forced to have sex with different people, or was this something she engaged in under her own volition? I think that's the defense's best strategy here. But the sheer magnitude of the graphic testimony that we're hearing from Ms. Ventura, I believe, is probably laying a firm foundation in the minds of these jurors, and understanding that there are going to be other victims who will likely give testimony as well. So even if you think these things about Ms. Ventura, you're showing a pattern of conduct, of travel, hiring escorts, using illicit drugs, traveling internationally to fuel some sort of what appears to be a sexual enterprise to feed Mr. Combs' own appetite for these things.
Bradford, we have another question from a viewer. This is Shelley Taylor. She asks, what about all of the people who covered for him? Why are they not charged? And that's a good question.
Sure. The answer is probably because they're going to be witnesses. There's no better way not to be charged in a criminal conspiracy than to cooperate with the government. And that's the difference between us defense attorneys and the government. They have such massive power to either grant immunity to witnesses, find witnesses that'll testify against you as long as they don't get charged. There's all these different ways that they can get testimony at an individual. So if I go and I list a bunch of defense attorneys, which defense witnesses that the defense attorneys have already done, I'm sure the prosecution goes out. They send an FBI agent to knock on your door. There's no better way to intimidate you than an FBI agent knocking on your door and saying, hey, I heard you're going to testify for Sean Combs. We'd like to talk to you. And when you tell them, no, I don't want to talk to you, suddenly you are then a target as well to see what your involvement in this investigation could be, to see what you did wrong. So the massive power of the government is always unmatched doesn't matter how much money you have.
Really?
It is always unmatched by a defense attorney, no matter who the defense attorney is. And I say that, because I've been in it. I've experienced it. I've had clients that are high net worth individuals that still have hired investigators, prior FBI agents, all these individuals, and still the power of the government is unmatched in these type of cases because of their ability to send out FBI agents anywhere in the world within an hour's notice to get a statement from someone, to intimidate someone, to make sure that they testify for the government, to give immunity to individuals, to arrest someone that is unwilling to come in and testify. They can have the power of an arrest and then put them in front of the judge and say, hey, this individual said that they might not show up for a trial, judge, and we want to keep them in custody until they do. That's why they have a 99% conviction rate. Luckily for me, I've been able to work within that 1% many, many times. But that being said, that power is unmatched. You don't experience it, you don't understand it until you're sitting at that table with your defense attorneys and feeling how every single witness that's taking the stand made some sort of deal or some sort of cooperation, or they're given some sort of immunity to testify against you. And in this case, where there is a RICO charge and, he's the only guy in the RICO, it's very unusual that you see one individual in a RICO and not even unnamed co-defendants. And that's really the alley that the defense needs to go down, and I think they will, is that all these individuals could have been named co-defendants. They all enabled, they all knew what was going on. They all either helped procure these prostitutes, ordered 1,000 bottles of Johnson & Johnson baby oil. Certainly that wasn't because someone wanted to get a tan. And all these different things that were going on could not have occurred without the cogs in the wheel, in the machine, to keep that turning, including Cassie. And I think that's where
Okay, let's check for some updates. Let's see what's going on here. So we left off at they were talking about this hotel in Hollywood that they were looking for a guy. They're reading these messages from June 13, 2013. Had Sean been violent with you? And she said yes. And you said you needed GHB. She said yes. And that there was two escorts not available. Cassie said, I wrote Paul available or Jake, the white guy, but he can't do until 11. The other guy can do earlier. It's just one more person knowing our secret. And she was talking about the freak offs in this SLS hotel. So the prosecution says, when you would take Valium before a freak off, when would you take Valium before a freak off? Cassie said, when I had an anxiety. Sean's driver would bring me the Valium. It was Raheem, I think. Damn. Whoop. Everybody catching bullets. Judge said, jurors, you can now take lunch. Jurors leave. Judge says, Miss Slavic, are there still disagreements on the exhibits? Prosecution Slavic says yes. The defense wants the exhibits to be longer and about masturbation. Ugh. Ugh.
Oh! Somebody! Oh! He needs some milk!
Ugh. Defense says they wanted to cut it off at looking at my iPad. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
What the?
Ugh.
Now you can demonstrate to the jury this is why he or she
12:40, they're taking lunch.
Well, we want to let everybody know that the jury has gone to lunch. So we should be able to check in with Elizabeth Milner in just a short time. She'll be able to tell us what exactly is going on in that courtroom, the reactions from the jurors, how Cassie Ventura is on the stand. Is she getting tearful today? We don't know. We know that she did get tearful earlier in her testimony. But let's get to some more questions right now. Melba, I'll send this next question to you. I don't know if they need to actually show these videos, but do you anticipate, and this question was from Marissa Monroe, are they going to show the freak off videos in court?
I think they will, but I don't think they're going to show all of them. I think they're just going to maybe show like a sampling. So again, Cassie can talk about and identify the sex workers that may have been involved, identify the locations, because again, in order for this to be a federal case, you've got to cross state lines. So if you have to establish that these activities happened in New York, happened in Miami, happened in California, that you were forcibly transferred or had to travel to each of these different locations. So the videos are going to be important from that perspective. But again, I don't think everybody's going to sit there and, watch, sex tape after sex tape after sex tape and watch Cassie be, basically raped and brutalized 10 different ways from sunrise. I don't see that happening. But I do see some snippets coming in. But I do got to say one more thing, because my inner prosecutor wants to go after what Brad said.
Yeah, I had a feeling Melba was going to have something to say about what Bradford was saying. So go on, Melba.
Yeah. But most importantly,
I think that Melba's bringing the velvet hammer to you, Bradford. Not a velvet glove, a velvet hammer.
Fantastic.
So go on,
She's
Melba.
always been fantastic. I welcome it.
Well, one thing I will say, first of all, is that sadly, I think all of us know people who have stayed in abusive relationships for a lifetime. And we know people that have died as a result of domestic violence relationships. So that argument of, well, take responsibility, you should leave, et cetera, you don't leave until you're ready. And ready can mean a number of different things. Ready could mean you are emotionally ready to walk away from the person. Maybe it was one beating too far. Maybe you ended up in the hospital, whatever the case may be. She left him around 2018 and there's allegations of a sexual assault in 2018. Maybe he brutalized her one time too many and she walked away. It's not necessarily she's waiting for $50 million. She just needed to get her inner gumption together to be able to walk away. And also her coming forward, yes, later in life, but a lot of times, again, it's because you have enough space away from the person and you feel strong enough in your own life. You have money, you have a roof over your head. Your survival is not tied to your abuser. And now you feel strong enough to come out and talk about it. You've seen what happened with Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, so many survivors. That's why we had to have the Adult Survivors Act that allows people to come back and be able to address these claims decades sometimes after the fact. Because again, that emotional healing is not a linear thing. It takes a while to get out of these relationships and then feel strong enough to be able to go through the entire court process, especially sharing the most horrible, degrading things that can happen to you as a human being, and sharing it in front of people you don't know, sharing it in front of your partner, sharing for all of us to sit there and analyze it. That's tough. That's not an easy thing to do. And some survivors are never able to do that.
Yeah, you're most definitely right, Melba. And they have to be ready. They have to be ready. And often at times there's a lot of fear. So we are going to get back to the questions here in just a few moments. Stay with us, everybody. Keep dropping your really great questions into the YouTube chat. We are going to take a quick break. But before we do, we wouldn't be able to do this show without the support of the viewers, of course. You guys are the most important part of this, but also we have really great sponsors. And one of them is Morgan & Morgan. They're a terrific law firm that helps people
Any
who've been hurt in
representation?
accidents and all kinds of things. And in the past few months alone, Morgan & Morgan has won some really big verdicts. There's been a $6 million verdict for a car crash.
Morgan & Morgan. So we're on break, man. We're on break. Diddy, can he overcome? We will overcome. Can Diddy overcome?
Sponsor promoter 24 million because he received a 40 million advance and Justin pulled the plug early on. Scooter's company agreed to pay off the debt and Justin signed a note promising to pay back Hybe over a 10-year period, but he made one installment and he stopped paying. Out of jail, she states. I feel like Diddy is definitely going to go to jail because this is only.
They're saying Diddy going to jail. This is weird. Oh. They're saying this is some demonic shit. The devil. Oh, he's been on for a couple hours now.
Hear what Cassie has to say. Thank you, Cassie and Diddy. By the way, at this point, she's in this corner. She looked like she's trying to blend in the wall, trying to get his shit. He said, Diddy's a bitch. But they're saying he would like to intimidate people. He says security. I don't know if they're talking about this thing that were leaked.
I know it sounds kind of harsh, but I'll explain my statement. I said, because
it says from what? She says oral sex. AUSA says another UTI? Then sad face emoji. Ventura says, I was open with him about them. AUSA says, so you feel sick? Oh, I guess they're reading for Sean. Oh, they're reading for Sean. So they're reading for Sean, and it says, what source? And
Lord Almighty, Lord Almighty. All right, so they're coming back for the Q&A. Lunch break right now. They're taking a lunch break.